live land, wherever you are, Facebook, YouTube. Thanks for connecting up with us tonight. We are live in a bunch of different places. And tonight what we're going to do is we're going to do a webinar based on the xLights mapping and how to be creative with mapping. And so there's going to be a lot of little things that we're going to touch on. I do have a PowerPoint I'm going to go through real quick that kind of shows some things. I'll demonstrate some things in xLights tonight whenever it comes to mapping, and kind of throw some ideas at you whenever you're doing your mapping. But keep in mind that I think the biggest thing that holds everybody up in sequence mapping is the fact that it's not that it's hard, it's complicated, because every year whenever you create a sequence, you add more and more to it. So let me go ahead and I've got to push a button on OBS Studios, and I have to do something in Zoom here. So share screen. So everybody in Zoom should see my screen now, and now we'll go and do, this is too much. There we go. That looks like we got everybody seeing the same thing now. So one of the things that one of the reasons why this webinar was brought up is because one of our PPD Club members last week suggested something that was, I don't want to say basic, but he relayed it very, very simply. And it's such a broad topic. We could talk for hours on mapping sequences. But what I want to do is I want to go over some of just the basic concepts to help you past basic points. And taking it one step at a time is probably the best way for everyone whenever you are doing any kind of mapping at all whatsoever. So we will go ahead and get started with this section here. By the way, if you are on YouTube, you can join us live in the Zoom room. Let me know if you can hear me now. I see some people having some issues hearing me. Can you hear me now? Out there on YouTube, give me a sound check.
I can hear you.
So Zoom room can hear me. Can Facebook hear me?
I can hear you on YouTube.
I'm looking. I don't see that nice little screen that they showed up. Okay, Ryan Lucas is on YouTube. Ryan, are you in the room too? There's a lot of people in here. So in any event, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. So first, tonight's webinar is on xLights creative sequence mapping, challenges and options. So basically, whenever you're considering doing a sequence mapping, there's a couple of things that you should understand before you actually do the mapping. And this is more geared towards new people. I don't want to get too heavy and deep involved into hardcore mapping, and I've got 30,000 props in my show. I want to keep it really, really basic because I have a basic house, and we'll walk through some ideas with it, but I want to go through some of the really low-end basic stuff so that everybody can have a springboard from where to start. So the first thing I want to talk about is defining what mapping is. So basically, when we consider mapping, it's the ability to apply an effect from one sequence in another sequence via the import process. So basically, you're able to take somebody else's work or another sequence that has been created and apply it to your own home layout. And we do this by pulling in effects from one model to another model, or a group of models to another group of models. So there's the idea of mapping. It's a really simple context. What we're doing is xLights will apply an effect to pretty much any model, almost every model, as if it were a four-sided square matrix. And as you can see in the example here, on the left you have a matrix, and on the right you have a snowflake. A little more pixels in the second on the snowflake on the right, but you get the idea that it's not just a basic, it's not a small snowflake, it has a number of pixels in it. So there's a lot of density that effect can cover. And you can see in the second screen there, the effect can appear about the same just by looking at it. However, However, there are some challenges. And this is why mapping is sort of easy, because there are some models, and there are some submodels for that matter, that where it doesn't map exactly the way that you think it's going to. So sometimes there are differences in how an effect renders or comes across the model just because of the way xLights builds the model for you. We'll get more into that here whenever you see these two models side by side. So basically, this is a circle model in xLights, and the wreath on the left is the same as the matrix on the right. They're built identically. They have the same pixel count. They're the same height, the same width. Everything is identical. The difference is in the way that the effect moves across it. Now, why does the wreath look one way while the matrix or the square, the other version of the model look a totally different way? Well, it's because xLights has some model challenges, and I kind of wanted to, it's a little hard to draw it now. It's not exactly perfect, but in the screen on the right, I kind of blew it up a little bit. You can see here where we have these green brackets and the red brackets, okay? The green represents the bottom left of the wreath. So this is the bottom left side of the wreath. And this is the center of the matrix here, is the top center of this wreath. So this is actually the left side of the wreath, or of the left side of the matrix, and this is the right side of the matrix, and they're bent in a circle in order to fit together. And basically what xLights is doing is it's rendering this effect into this circle pattern. Now, if you didn't know that xLights does this to the circle model, you would think that xLights is broken because it's not doing exactly what we talked about here on this previous slide. It's not doing what you think it should. And this is one of the basic reasons why people get confused, frustrated, because effects render differently across different props. And it's not always apparent. So with that being said, keep in mind that it may not be the effect, it may be the model that's causing things to look a little differently. I can give an example of this later if somebody reminds me, the difference between a matrix and a megatree, how differently things can slightly look just because of their orientation. So one of the things that we can consider doing is we can consider, as a sequencer, we use render styles in the sequence to change how an effect works across your models. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to change the look of the effect based on the way that xLights is pushing the data to those pixels. So what we use is we use this box called the layer setting box, and we use a render style. And if we change the preview, or we change the render style to per preview, we actually get something that looks a little bit more, and in this instance, it's like the butterfly effect, where you have the effect going across the screen in the same type of manner that you would see that on, let's say, the matrix, or the larger matrix that's the same kind of visual square versus the long rectangular matrix. So changing the render style makes the effect appear much more normal whenever you go to, in this instance, per preview. But also, as a sequence programmer, we use these render styles to change these things. And so when you map a sequence in, let's say it's from a purchase sequence or somebody else's sequence, those render styles possibly have been changed, or edited, altered, or otherwise fixed so that they appear a certain way. And then all of a sudden, you have this question, why doesn't it look on my sequence the way it looks in your layout? And so keep in mind, this is probably the biggest kind of roadblock that people will have whenever they're mapping a sequence, and not understanding why xLights does a certain thing. So why are we talking about sequencing when we're only mapping? Well, basically because the sequences and because of how effects are rendered, and to get a certain look, we have to change those render styles. And I kind of already touched on this, is if you take the time to look at the sequence that was rendered a certain way on one sequence, which it's really, really challenging to explain it. Whenever you apply it to yours, it may appear differently because of those render styles. So why doesn't the sequence look like the sequence in the demo? Well, that's kind of the exact same. It's the same question. It's just reworded. It's always, things are always going to be different, because unless you have exactly the same models, things will appear different. So for an example of this, if we just go back here, the way this butterfly effect is applied to that wreath is slightly different than the way the butterfly effect is applied to that matrix side by side. So seeing those two, xLights is rendering it the best it can on the model that it has been given. So keep that in mind. There's always going to be slight differences, but it will try to render in the best manner possible. So what we'll do is we'll get into this. Mapping like props to like props should yield those kind of like results. Now, we've already kind of explained this a little bit, but using effects on opposing or different props will yield those different results. And different can be good. I mean, let's face it, if you look at that wreath on the left, you have that nice kind of, rainbowy, swirly pattern that the butterfly effect gives you. But yet, whenever you go ahead and apply it to the wreath and you want it that way, or maybe you don't want it that way, you always know that you can go back and you can change the layer setting or the render style in the layer setting box. So with that being said, you can update and change them using those render styles. It's highly recommended. But warning, if you have submodels and you're applying effects to them, you may need to change those render styles because you want it to look as a per preview versus having it look as a model in xLights, because submodels render not exactly the same. We did an entire class on this a couple months ago, and this class that we did is loaded up on, I believe it's on the Facebook page. I don't know if it made it up to YouTube yet, but I invite you to go to the PPU and PPD Facebook pages. The video will be found there. So with that, what I want to do is I want to move over and start doing a demo in xLights, because I think too much of doing too much on PowerPoint and not having enough time to kind of walk through will give you a little bit better idea on exactly what mapping is. So right here you can see I have playing these two renders, the render style we were just talking about. We have these models that are built into xLights. And we have the ability to change those render styles so that they can look a certain way. Now, obviously, I have this per preview. If I do this per default, you can see they're doing the exact same thing. They're copies, they're identical copies of the same effect, but they're just coming across differently. I personally like the way that this kind of swirls around the wreath. It gives it something neat to look at. But you may want it a certain different way. So whenever you're mapping, if it doesn't look the same, don't worry about it. Appreciate it for what it is, and you can learn how to go in and select these individual effects one by one to kind of pick those up and make edits to them and adjust them on your own. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you an idea that that may help you whenever you are beginning to map. If you are mapping a sequence, let's go over here. This is a home that I did some work on many years back, and what they had was a simple layout. I've simplified it a little bit more. I mean, basically, you have a mega tree and a star, and you have some spiral trees, and the effects from the spiral trees don't convey very well from mini trees because they're two different models. They're actually not two different models. They're the same model. The difference, though, is that a spiral tree is still a mini tree or a mega tree. It's only using one strand. That's basically what a that's basically what a spiral tree does. So this person was making very simple spiral trees that they had zip tied some pixels to. And if you apply an effect to a spiral tree, so for example, if I just go in here, let's create a new animation. And let me pop this over here. And let me go in and I'm going to make a small mini tree. Let's say just a little mini tree right here, happy little tree. And we'll make it with 5 by 17. So, and we would make this 180. So there we go. There is a tall Boscoyo mini tree. We'll call that. And this guy, he's called tree 7. So what we'll do is we'll go over here. We'll go to display elements. Display elements. Where'd it go? It's missing. It's missing. Okay, view, Windows, dock all. Okay, still missing. View, Windows, dock all. There it is. So there is display elements, and we'll go ahead and grab this mini tree here. And we'll go and throw it here down by the tree 7. Close that up. Now here's our tree. Should say mini tree, but it's not on there. So if we just turn it on, this should be a mini tree. Reset. At least I think it should. Or maybe I need to do a new sequence. Let me start it out again. Discard changes. Because I changed the name. Maybe that screwed it up. So let's go find that again. Tree number 7. We'll turn that on. There's the little tree. Don't worry about the overlapping channels. I really didn't. I wasn't worried about the overlapping channels. Let's see. And we are looking for mini tree. Here we go. So there's our 2 trees, right? We have a tree here and we have a tree here. I guess we could zoom in. There's no groups here. And just basically let's move this little guy up. So tree 7 up by the mini tree. There we go. Then now they're right beside each other. We'll go ahead and throw the basic bars effect onto them, because the bars effect does a good job at helping you understand what bars does. If the bars are going up, it's pretty basic. You can kind of see that they work the same way. There's nothing fancy here. But how effects render across whenever you're mapping, and this is why it's important to understand this. If we change this to right, we're going to see how it renders a little differently on the spiral tree. So if we go right, so you see how as it's going right or left on the mini tree, you see how it looks completely different, how it's almost, oops, I didn't mean to go into 3D. There we go. So you see how it looks just a little different on the spiral tree. The reason it looks different because when you look at a spiral tree and you actually go in and you look at how the render buffer is built for this, it's a single line. And that line isn't curled in the model. That line is actually shown if we look at the node layout. Oh, not that one. This one. Right click, node layout. You'll see that it's only a single line and it goes from the bottom to the top. So xLights is going left to right on this strand. The only thing is that xLights can't tell because it believes that it's rendering it correctly, which it is. So this is why it's important that sometimes maybe you need to change the per preview. And now when you changed it to per preview, you can clearly see the difference. And this is one of the reasons why you might have some issues with mapping. So if you see issues with mapping, the first thing that you're going to look at is your layer setting box, and you're going to look for your render styles. Now, I spent quite a bit of time on this, and the reason for this is absolutely it's been absolutely frustrating to try to explain this. So I kind of think I knocked it, kind of beat this to a bloody pulp. So now the next thing I kind of want to talk about whenever we're talking about mapping is considering your source. So whenever I say consider your source, I'm saying consider where the sequence is coming from. And what I think the most important thing that you should do whenever you are mapping a sequence that you've got from somebody else is to open it up and start understanding how they put this sequence together. So one of the ways that you can do this, and I will go ahead and let me get another xLights layout here set up real quick. Here we go. So to keep it really, really basic, one of the best things that you can do is to be able to change your directory. After you've downloaded a sequence from somebody else, what you can do is you can unpack or unzip. And that's if you're on Mac, I think Mac automatically unzips a sequence. If you're on Windows, you can have an import folder. I have an import sequences folder, and I have a number of these sequences that I've got zipped up here, and I've unpacked them. And once you click on them here, you can, like, here's Joseph's Lullaby, we'll say. You can click the extract button up here, and you can extract the sequence. And once you've extracted it, I'll just replace the files. It's all good. What I can do is I can say, okay, tell xLights to go to this folder, and I can open it up and view how the sequence is actually created. So what I'll do is, let me see if there's one here that's a little bit more simple. That's not one. I should have had this ready ahead of time. Logan's is a great example. Can't stop the feeling. This is perfect. I can go ahead and select it. I can click extract all, and I'll extract it here, probably erase all the stuff in there. I'll replace it, doesn't matter. So now that it's extracted, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and physically use this version of xLights to change permanently. We'll go into that folder, import sequences. We'll go into Can't Stop the Feeling. And this is a 2016 sequence that's been out forever. And I believe we're in the correct layout. So you know that you'll be in their layout whenever you go to the layout tab and you see their physical layout to their sequences. So this is where the first thing that people need to understand when you're mapping from one sequence into your home sequence is you need to realize, well, what's available to sequence from in this sequence. So if you notice, you have some groups here. These groups are denoted by a blue file folder within these the list here for the models. If you scroll down there, they do appear alphabetically unless you change how you want to view them. Maybe you want to view them Z to A or A to Z. So you can do that. You can organize the actual props by their start channel, which is useful if you need that. But you can also sort them by alphabetically. So one of the reasons why this is important, the other reason why this is important is because when you begin mapping, you'll see, so for example here, I'll go ahead and close these all out. We don't have any groups in our layout over here. This is our kind of faux layout that we kind of started with, right? That, you know, is kind of bare and basic. It's simple. It's got a tree. It's got a couple mini trees. It's got some arches and windows and outlines. This, if you're getting into the beginning stages of mapping, what you want to do is you want to consider, okay, what props am I pulling from and what am I going to pull them to? Well, he has arches, so I have arches. I can put those there. You know, I can utilize the arch sequencing there. I don't see any mini trees. What's this? This is a central garden ground RGB. I don't know what that is. So maybe I need to go look at the sequence. I can actually go in, open the sequence, and hopefully I have the MP3 somewhere. I didn't even think about that. But, oh, there, it just saved it. Okay. The next thing you want to do, we can go to their master view, and this is all of their effects. This is everything in the sequence, and you can zoom in and zoom out using the plus and minus buttons, which are up here. Here's zoom out, zoom in. We can get rid of some of those extra timing marks. We can go to, I don't know, free there. Free, that works. So you can look at how these effects were created, and you can see what actually was turned on through the whole sequence. And what this is helpful for is knowing, hey, whenever I pull an effect in from the donor sequence, I have it open on my one screen. Whenever I start mapping with this sequence, let's say I begin mapping, I can sit there and say, well, he's got this effect or these effects on a spinner group. He's got a spiral tree group. Oh, look, he actually has spiral trees. So we could apply those spiral tree effects to his from his spiral trees into my spiral trees. If he doesn't have mini trees, then I have a mini tree, then maybe I use the spiral tree effect to apply to those as well. And what happens though, whenever we get into looking at the specific layout and we say, wait a second, I've got this giant prop, let's say, I don't know, let's say we have one of Boscoyo's amazing, where are they at? The 47-inch snowflakes. Let's say the diamond flake. Is that it? No, we want to go to the other one. That's the one. There's the Ice Queen. Insert the model. So here you have the Boscoyo downloaded model for the snow, the Ice Queen. What am I going to map from here into here to make this look good? Well, the challenge is it's not always easy to do that, but what you want to do whenever you have something like this is you want to go into the sequence tab, into the donor sequence, and you want to begin to zoom in and look around and say, hey, what has some interesting effects? Maybe you render the sequence and you play it a couple of times and you click on some of the effects and you start to see, well, that's the mega tree. Well, I can render this real quick while it's rendering, but you can start looking at those different effects and begin imagining, oh, here's the house preview kind of playing in the background there. So it looks like there's a whole house effect here. You know, what if we went down to the model level to see where things kind of were a little more exciting? Let me change back over to here. And so we have a white tree. I don't know what model that is. Let me hit the model. Where's that? Okay, right there. So this is his white tree, this pixel white trees. That's over here on this model preview. Maybe that would work out well for putting across the larger prop. I don't know. But it's a lot of, especially whenever it's a sequence that has been done, it's a little older and it doesn't have a lot of, I don't want to say not logical, but in 2016 things were way different. We didn't use a lot of a lot of the things that developed over the years because of the way we used to do things. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to look at what has already been created. And in this instance, you want to look at the things that there physically are in the layout that you can one-for-one map. So in this instance, we might have to create a couple groups over in your layout in order for them to look in order for you to easily map things over. So let's say these arches here, if we wanted to create a group that we're going to map to, what we'll do is we'll select the group and we will right click on it and we'll go ahead and create group from selections. So you can have multiple props, and we'll do this a couple times. We'll call this arches. And now what I'm doing, I've always called this is creating a logical group. If you hold the control key down, I don't know about Mac, maybe it's the command key, and you keep clicking and you select multiple models, you can right click and you can create a group from selections here, and we can call these spiral trees. And you've got a mini tree here. You can create a group here and call it mini trees. And we have some windows and doors here, so we could use that exact same. That stinking outline. That stinking outline. Maybe we'll come over here and select it from the screen because you actually can do it that way. And this is a door. And is there another door? Is there another door? House door, yes. And I think, can we get the window? Is there? Oh, the bay window. There it is. Okay. So there's all the windows. We can create a group called all windows, or windows and doors. So now you have some windows and doors that you can work with. Now you kind of have these house outlines. We can say this is like the roof. We could call this the house outline. Grab all of those. Create group. Right click and then it might take you some time to build these groups up. Another thing here too is in this instance, we have a lot of snowflakes. Now, one of the things that you may consider is, since you have so many snowflakes, maybe it would be something you might be interested in taking, let's say, every other snowflake across the line. Let's say, I don't know if I'll be able to do that consistently because of there we go. There's 3 snowflakes. What if we create a group and we call these, I don't know, snowflake 1? And what if we have, it's going to be really hard to do this. Let's see, snowflake. There we go. Create group. Snowflake 2. And oh, how does it have snowflake 2 already? Did I? Okay, that works. So you have 2 snowflake groups there. And you can apply a set of effects, even though you may have multiple snowflakes. Maybe you all want them in one group. You can do that. You can you can grab all the snowflakes and you can put them in, let's call it an all snowflake group. Create group, all snowflakes. But this is part of being creative whenever you're doing your mapping. Maybe we'll do it this way. So now you have one with all of them. Maybe we consider these ones over here, and I'm going to unlock this here because it's just annoying. Go away. There we go. So now I can click these. Maybe I want to go every other one of these. Create group. Let's see. Add to existing groups. Snowflake 1. And now we add this one, and this one to snowflake. Add to existing group. Snowflake 2. Bam. Okay, so now you have 3 snowflake groups. If you want to map all your snowflakes to all the snowflakes, there you go. You're good to do that. Or you can go in and you can be creative and have every other snowflake do one thing and every other snowflake do something different. So for example, if you are mapping, let's say from one of our sequences, and you have we have spinners and we have snowflakes, you want half of your spinners to be half of your snowflakes to be spinners, you certainly can use those effects from the spinners right on the snowflakes. They're about the same prop. They're circular. They have a center point. They have arms on them. There's almost an outer perimeter. You can put a pinwheel effect on it. I mean, they're the same profile. Whenever you look at them, they have arms and they're circular. So you can utilize effect across different models, and that's where you begin to instead of having all snowflakes do the same thing, now you're taking some effects from one thing and applying them to something different, even though you don't physically have those snowflakes in your layout. Perhaps you don't have candy canes and you want the candy canes represented from the layout inside yours. You could apply those to the snowflakes, for example. You might have to adjust some effects because they're tall, long effects, but the effects will go onto them and they'll still work. But it gives you that ability to be creative across those different platforms. So so step number one, obviously, is you probably want to spend some time setting up your groups so that you can have pretty much all of the groups that you need whenever you begin mapping. And you're not going to know what you need to map with until you've taken the time to sit down and look at your groups and look at what groups are available from the donor sequence that you have picked up. So I can share with I can share honestly. Let me go ahead and close this out because we're not going to map from the sequence. Go into the original. There we go. Whenever you take the time to look through and obviously you can go download, we have a free sequence on the PPD website you can go download, and it has all of the groups built into it. This is the original layout. It's a much more basic layout, and it's a basic starting point. Now, even though I have a bunch of snowflakes on the house and I only sequence one group, that doesn't mean that you can't put these candy canes here on those snowflakes. Just like I said, you can be creative and utilize those candy canes in more than one way. Let's say you have a basic layout, a very simple layout, and you have a few more different models on your ground. Maybe on the ground you have let's say pea stakes. You could probably utilize the effects from the matrix. If you have this simpler layout, you could utilize the effects from the matrix on top of your pea stakes. Perhaps you have something, perhaps you have, let's say, you have some ornaments. Maybe you have round ornaments on your house, but you don't have window outlines. Maybe you could utilize the effects from the window outlines, and this is where you get to be creative in your mapping. You get to select the window outlines and apply those against your ornaments. Actually, that's something I do in my own house. Another thing that you can consider is, as basic as your house is that taking the time to make everything as close to realistic as possible. You don't want to get into the habit of like turning these to fit the angle. You want these to be nice and squared off, because then the effects will run over your matrix or your entire layout in a sense that's going to look normal or accurate. If you have these slightly tilted and you do per preview, it's going to go kind of canted along that line. So keeping these squared off is always a good idea. But in any event, as far as mapping goes, what I want to do now is I want to point out that if you've taken the time to build some groups and you want to test out some things and have a little bit of fun with the mapping, I think one of the important things that you want to kind of take advantage of, especially in sequences that have had a lot of detail work, is go down to the models that are very specific. And the models that are usually very specific, here's this one of those recent ones. I'm not going to play the sequence, but one of the places that you can find a little bit of detail in some of these smaller sequences or the simpler layouts, you can find some detail down in the megatree star. And you might not think about this as there's a lot of effort put into it, but you can find some effort put into to detailing on the megatree star that might be really, really specific. There's in this instance, there's a couple of layered effects that are warped and have different looks to them and look really classy. That would look good on a prop that is in that kind of a circular look. You could apply that to a group of spinners. You could apply that to pretty much anything that's in your layout. And the thing is that maybe you're thinking, oh, well, it's the star and the megatree. Well, that doesn't mean that the star and the megatree can do one thing, but something else in the other side of the yard where it's a little bit less conspicuous, you can also utilize those effects as well. I think that's one of the props that's probably the most underutilized is the star and the tree, because people forget that, oh, there's sequencing on the star and it may be different. Now, how one sequencer like myself uses effects may be completely different than how another vendor or another sequencer decides to use them. So this is why it's important to know what's in the sequence, or not know what every effect is in the sequence, but to know exactly where to find those effects. And so it's important, if you have a donated sequence or a sequence you purchased, whoever the vendor is, make sure that you are able to go in to their layout, change permanently to or change temporarily to their layout, open up their layout, unpack it, and kind of click on the groups, and you can begin creating, just as easily as I created over here, these groups here that you could physically align with something that maybe this is your home and this is where you're pulling sequencing effects from. So I'll go ahead and another thing that probably needs to be done, these are floods. Let's create a group here and we'll do some mapping real quick. So let's create group from selections. We'll call this floods. I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to create a group, all house, and add this to existing group, all house. I'm going to create a group for the all yard, create group. Now I'm doing this quickly. This isn't exactly a match for our layout, but I'm doing it for game's sake and for time. Snowflakes all. Let's put this in the snowflake group and existing group, snowflakes all. And we're going to clone a group. So this is helpful. You can select any group and you can do this thing called clone group. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rename this because we have something called all house decorations. And if you have multiple different things that are laying on your house, for example, house decorations would be, this is to me, snowflakes, a spinner, and the candy canes. Anything else on the house that isn't a decoration, meaning a physical big prop, a Coro prop of some sort, then I don't include it with this. So this is just something that I came up with, that we came up with, and just to mess around with. So I created that and I just renamed it. So you can rename it, and I made a group really, really quick. So that's something that will help you a little bit there. With the spiral trees. Oh, I don't have a yard border. That's a good one. We'll do the yard border too. Yard border. Create group. And we have a tree and a star. So let's go ahead and save this layout. What I'll do is I'll create a new sequence. Oop. Discard changes. I'll go and find the actual music. Music. Cell dweller, where are you at? There he is. Okay. And I'm just going to click done. And so now we have the sequence. We have a group of props, and there's a couple things here that I haven't done. There's no all house and all display and all stuff like that. I could add that real quick. So we can go to all house, all yard, right click, create group from selections, and we call this all display. And so now I have to go back into display elements, and we'll add that in, all display. I'm going to do a little house cleanup here. We'll put the larger groups at the top here, all house, all yard, all house decorations, and that should do it. Windows and doors, snowflakes, floods, yard border. I don't think, oh, I did, there's the house outline. Okay. So this is how we become creative. We go to the import effects, and I'm going to go and look for cell dweller. Oh, it's in the Halloween layout, Halloween, which is good because cell dweller is, there we go, Halloween. I think it's Halloween. Is that what we did that on? No, we did it on Christmas. Maybe it's in the pro layout. That it's newer. There it is. Okay, so I found my mapping sequence. I've already got my, kind of unpacked it. I guess it's probably better if I show you how to unpack it. So we can import. Whenever you do the import, it's always best to do the import effects and go to your zip folders. So I have a package sequence folder that I would pull from. So if I do that here, look for cell dweller, where are you at? There he is. We'll go from the original, oops. We'll go from the original layout where it's basic. And so now it's unpacking and extracting the sequence. I have it open on my other screen. So this is one way for you guys to kind of take advantage. It's always good to have the other layout unpacked and unzipped, and you can open it up and you can physically look what's inside it with one version of xLights, and keep it off to the right. And then you have this screen here that says, hey, what's this? What's this? If I click on these, what's it going, what exactly are those props? If it doesn't make sense to you, you can always refer back to the layout and click on those exact things here, and then view in your layout from the donor sequence, you can view exactly what it is that you're bringing in. So I think this is something that people forget that is really, really simple to help you guide yourself to mapping. So now, obviously, there's a number of things that are already kind of lined up. We have an all display. I can throw this on the all display. I have an all house. I'll throw that on the all house. We have an all roof. Oh, we don't have a roof, but what we do have is we have an outline. So we can take the all roof and put it on the outline here. We can take the all yard. I think I built a all yard. And we have some arches. We can take the arches and put them over there. Another thing you can do is you can hit the auto map button, and sometimes some of these things will automatically map over to the props that are here. So for example, there's the mini trees popped over there. The arches would have popped in. Maybe these would have, but I think the case of the letters A, capital LL, was a little different, so it might not auto map. The windows and door, it mapped over. So that's kind of nice if you have a sequence vendor that you rely on a lot. If you have the groups named the same, you can use that auto map function. So you have a star here for the mega tree. Let's go grab that and put that on there real quick. Snowflakes. So we did a couple things with the snowflakes. We did some different stuff. We have two different groups, and this is where, again, where you can be a little creative. So we have these candy canes. What if we put the candy canes on the second group of snowflakes? And what if we put the snowflakes on the first group of snowflakes? So snowflake 1, snowflake 2. There's no mini tree stars, so this is extra left over. Oh, we have house verticals. So on our house preview, we didn't do any vertical lines on the house, but we could submodel those, and there's some extra sequencing in there. Megatree, we need to pull that over. Let's do that real quick. Let's see, Megatree. Oh, what did I call that? What did I call that? Tree, CCR Mega. That's what it's called. So now we have some other models here that we haven't used effects for. I'm going to use show you this. This is something that I do a lot. I use snip and sketch. This is what I use to capture screen. Do a little kind of screen cap click for whenever I'm doing the PowerPoints and stuff. But I can also take a snip and sketch of the screen here, and I can say, hey, here's the models. I can put this off on another screen, and I can say, here's the models I have left. I can come back and I can remap these, and I can utilize that sequencing somewhere else that, let's say, maybe I had missed. Okay, so I'm going to set this off to the side. And the other thing I'm going to point out here on this mapping screen is there are some functionalities that are built into xLights. You can erase existing effects on an imported model. So if you didn't like an effect on something, or you didn't like the effects that were on a certain model, maybe you come in here and grab something different and apply it to that model, and you can erase an effect, a group of effects, and reapply something different. Maybe you're looking for something different for it to do. The import model blend mode, it's a little more advanced. The model blending is here in the sequence settings. I've talked about this in a number of other videos, but it's how effects blend together in between the sequence and whether they're overwritten or not. So importing via the blending mode is a good thing to have always checked. And then you have import media. You can, this is if you have, let's see, different shaders, images, videos. This is where it saves the images and so forth, what files it puts it in whenever you do the import. And this, I just leave it alone. You don't have to touch it. Automatically, all the timing tracks will come in. And oh, one other thing, you don't have to map everything all at one time. And the reason why you don't have to do that is because you can save your map. So I'll show you this real quick. We have, let's see, let me go back here. For example, I'll save this mapping and I'll call it mapping 2022 webinar. So that way I always have this map. I can call it my 2022 map from PPD or Showstopper or Magical Light Shows. You can create a map for any one of your sequence vendors that you utilize, and be able to quickly load that map whenever you come across their sequences in the future, and you can click on it and select it and quickly get back to being able to have these all lined up for yourselves. You can always change your map out. Sometimes there will be things that don't show up. They'll be red because they're not over on the list here. But this is the basics for just getting kind of started. You have, again, you have things that you haven't used. I've got a little screenshot of that, so I can always go back and say, hey, I missed sequencing on this. I need to grab some sequencing for it. So if I go ahead and click OK, it should bring in all of these effects. And I mean, we can render it. I'm not going to be able to play the audio, but that's okay. But in any event, so by show of hands, or if you're in chat there, go ahead. Is all of this kind of making sense? And am I hitting some of the things that maybe that you folks had some questions on? I got chat up. Yeah, give me some feedback. Let me know.
Clyde, you talked about deleting effects on certain models, but I'm not sure that you showed how to do that. If we want to delete an effect on a certain model, how do we do that, sir?
If you want to delete effect, you would go to whatever model it is, you'd select it, and you'd in this instance, I can click and drag because no timing works around here. And you can delete, right click and delete.
On the mapping screen, you showed click that box on the top. On the import screen, on import effects?
Oh, yeah. In other words, delete the effects, remap. So if I were going to, if I didn't like what was on the all house here, I could check that box and map something else to the all house, and it would erase this and import whatever was on it from what you were mapping from. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So basically what that will do is if you don't like this, you can remap something completely different to it. You check that box and it will delete the effects on here and import the new effects over top of it. If not, if you don't check that box, it will try to apply those effects into the empty spaces that are left in the sequence. It'll try to merge the two. So if there's an empty space, it will fill it with whatever is available to apply to it. So it's like me taking this and copying it and pasting it into here and deleting this at the same time. That's what xLights is doing. Does that make sense, Jeff?
I think so. I think
So-
I get the gist of it. But I think where Jen and I were confused is when you press on the mapping the importing importing each one, and when you click on that box on the top left, you said do it there. So maybe I was just confused on doing it on that page versus this page. I think is where we got confused.
So if we go back in here, huh?
Hey, Clyde, out in Facebook land, there's a question on what box are you referring to? Can you just show that process? So then everybody understands it's on the video as well.
So if I go back in, let's go back into the original layout. It's in here. So this is the box that we're referring to. So this erase effects on imported models. So in this instance, if I didn't like what is on the all house here, what xLights can do is we can take the icicles and put it on the all house. And then we can click erase existing effects on imported models. And what this should do is this should erase all of the effects on the all house and replace it with whatever the icicles have. So if we click OK, I did, it says, are you sure you want to exit? Yes, we'll just exit. See how it deleted the effects and reapplied the icicle lights effects.
So when you did that, Clyde, you actually only moved one of those over. If you had more that was on the loaded map, would it have erased all those or just over?
Correct. Anything that you have remapped on the import screen. So we can do that again. Import from original. Here we go. Okay. So you got, so now we can do it in a couple instances, right? So let's take the spinner here and we'll put it on the arches and we'll go back to the all display. Is that what it was? No, the all house, and put the all house on there. Okay, so you can see here is the arches and here is the all house. And if we erase the effects and click OK, it's asking if I'm sure I want to not save the map. And yes, I'm sure I don't want to save the map. So see how the all house came back, and then we have a change in the arches. The arches are completely different than they were before.
When you're going to erase, you only.
If you do that, so when you go and map it like that, if you don't click that box, will it try to play both effects simultaneously, or will it stick to the original?
If so, because
You understand what I'm asking?
I think I'm confused. Let me open up the box again. Let me go back there. Oops, didn't mean to do that.
If you don't
So-
check the box, it'll just try to put effects where there's not currently effects.
Right. So basically what you're saying is if I don't check the box and I grab something completely different, and I pulled this off the pro layout and I put this on the arches, let's say, okay, what xLights is going to do is it's going to say, hey, wherever there's free spots, fill it in. And I'll go ahead and I'll click OK here so you can see I'm adding something to it. I don't know how much is going to come in. I can't guarantee anything will. Click OK. Yes. See how it filled in those extra spots? Wherever it was empty, it filled them in. And it applied the effects that were available to the empty spots that were open here in this area. So that's the difference between, because you can remap something over and over and over again. In other words, you could literally come in here and you could say, you could literally say, you know what, put the mini trees on the arches. And what xLights will try to do is it'll fill in all of these empty spots with whatever the mini trees have on them. So do you see here the mini trees? Everybody see the mini trees right here where they're on, where the effects are on, but there's nothing here. So if I click OK, it's going to fill in all of that spot. See how it filled in all of that extra? So that's what happens whenever you're not erasing, whenever you're replacing, if that makes any sense.
That makes total sense. And then if you save your mapping every time for that, it will save the changes and keep everything else original that you had originally saved the first time.
Correct. So if I'm like, oh crap, I don't even like this, and you just close out of here.
No, it won't. If you save the mapping again, say like how Clyde is just bringing in the arches, if you would save the mapping on that instance, the only thing it's going to do is bring in the arches then when you reload the mapping. So say like you did your mapping the first time and you brought everything in. So you brought 30 different groups over, right? And then the next time you only brought the arches over and you saved that mapping again, you're going to replace the first saved mapping and it's only going to have the arches on that saved mapping now.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be saved as a separate file.
No, it won't be saved as a separate file unless you change the name, because
Correct.
once you have created a map, xLights remembers the map that you selected or saved it as, and it will recall it until you change the sequence. I believe that's correct. Now, if you go to import and let's say you change your map, this is why you can have multiple maps, and this is why it's useful, because you might like the way it maps with the candy canes going to the spinner, and you might like the spinner effects better on your stars on the mini trees. And if that's the way you like it, then you can create a map that way. But if it doesn't look good one time, you can use a different map and apply it differently to different effects. And that's basically what the goal is. The goal is to, I mean, if I render all of these effects, even though they're on the arches, there's a ton of crazy looking effects that are going to be playing on here, but they'll still do something. They'll produce something. And because in this instance, the sequencer spent a lot of detailed time finding exact timings for things to go to the beat with, it's still going to look good. It's just going to look different, and it may not appear exactly as what you expect it to appear as.
Oh, and Clyde, for some of the newer people too, one of the things that I learned last year was year 2 for me, was that because I have a certain vendor that I basically get all my sequences from, some company called Pixel Pro Displays. What I did was I created a master mapping list and saved it in a separate folder. And what you can do in xLights is import the mapping to save a little bit of time. Now you'll have to do some fine tuning, but at the same time, it's a huge time saver if you create essentially a master map. And then when you go to take a different sequence, you can import the mapping from a different sequence because the elements are going to roughly be the same if you're doing like the standard layout or the pro layout, and then it'll just map it to it. And if you want to do any fine tuning in there, you certainly can at the mapping stage.
Exactly.
Well, how do you create that master map?
You say what you do is what I did was I experimented with certain props that didn't quite correlate with what Clyde and Rob had, but just tested it out. And
right, I get that part of it, but how do you save it so that you can bring it back and use it again?
So you do this.
Literally,
here, I'll physically show you. So I'm just going in to where I have the sequence, your zip file, and you import from your zip file. I'm not importing from a zip file because it's on my computer, because it's more steps. It's just faster for me to click here. But so here's your mapping screen. And this is where you're saving your file, and this is where you're loading it from. So if I load my file, and I saved it here, oops, here, right here, mapping webinar, so what that does is that reloads everything that says, hey, remember that sequence we did back, for the webinar? Pull in these models. And if you're using the same consistent sequencer, you can create a map for that consistent sequencer. If you have a different sequencer, you can create a new map for it. You can have limitless maps that you save and reutilize. So for example, this would be, let's say this is the PPD map. These are the PPD groups. Now you go and you do one from Michael and Diana over at Showstopper, and they have a whole bunch of groups in there that are completely different than what we have. Now you have a completely different map. You load a different map. Maybe you have one that's called Showstopper sequences, because I got one from them back a couple years ago. So I did the same thing. I had, here's my this is my own personal map from 2022 pre-importing, 2021 or 2020 pre-importing. So I would create a map for each year based on what I had added or changed. And then I can always go back and look at what I had done in the past and adjust it and save it as a new map, and I can always recall it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, that's genius.
It's just using the tools. They're there, and it's just something the goal is to not overthink it. The hardest part is to do it all at once. Like, for example, I've done all of this at once. I created these groups. I did it rather quickly, and I didn't mean to do it quickly. But for you to physically see that it's easy to create those groups, it's easy for you to sit there and say, oh, I've got their layout open over here. I see how they have them built. I can go build it on mine. And it's very simple to do that through a few mouse clicks. So, I mean, and some people, it's a little harder for some because I'm just not good with the computer. Okay, fine, no problem. We can do that for you if you want. But it really isn't that terribly complicated. It's just wrapping your head around the idea to do it.
Yes,
So,
sir. I agree.
Can I ask this question?
Hold on. I want to address somebody in YouTube, because I see a couple chats going on.
Sure.
If you apply new effects, can it be undone? The answer is if you're mapping, and so I want to back up because I don't want to go too far ahead. He's asking, and I believe he asked this question while we were talking about erasing, using the erase existing effects or importing effects over top of effects and not erasing them. If you import, I don't think you can undo. But what you can do is you can erase everything and just re-import one thing, period. So you can go in here, you can cancel this out, you can erase all this. You can just click, drag, select, and hit the delete button. It's gone. And then you can come back here and say, I didn't like any of that. I'm just going to start over. I'm going to go to the sequence, and I'm going to pick the thing that was on there to begin with, because that just made much more sense. So here's the all house. I think, is it all house? No, the arches. So here's the arches. I put the arches on the arches. We'll move this over, and you can see it populate, and click OK, and bam, the arches are back the way they should be. So that's one of the questions he asked. If you apply, let's see, in case I don't like it after I see it rendered. Yes, absolutely. You can render the sequence out as many times as you like and say, I like those arches. I don't like those arches. I want the arches to do what the snowflakes are doing. And you can go and do that. It really is that simple. You don't need to map everything all at one time. Maybe you only need to map one model or two models. I just want to look at the mini trees. I just want to see how they look. So you map in the mini trees and you apply those to the snowflakes. Those snowflakes look amazing because the mini trees did great things on them, and the snowflakes now look way better. Well, maybe the snowflakes look better to you on the mini trees. So it's all up to you into making it easy to kind of customize it to kind of fit what you're looking for. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Could you do me a favor and do a quick run through again of how you opened the sequence that wasn't your actual layout, so that you could be looking at their layout with their effects
Okay,
simultaneously while you're mapping?
sure. So give me a second, and I'll kind of mock this up. I'll mock it up so that it's in my downloads. Okay. That way it's a little more realistic. Okay, give me a couple seconds. I'll do this off screen so I don't ruin the surprise. Not that it's a surprise, but because I can label this in YouTube on the video as specific bullet points or chapters, so that can be quite helpful. Let's go with that one. Okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Darn it. I was trying to be all slick and I just kind of screwed it up. Okay, so we'll do Rock Sugar, Don't Stop the Santa Man. So I have it here in my downloads. It's like I just downloaded this song from wherever, right? I purchased or I downloaded it there. This is one of those sequences that I've downloaded. So it's right here in my download folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. Let's file, close sequence. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get a copyright strike if I accidentally hit play on Rock Sugar. So we'll save this layout. Let's do a open. No, let's do a new sequence. New sequence. Musical. Music. Come on. There we go. There's the MP3. So I'm in my layout, right? So I've just created a brand new sequence in my home layout and I'm ready to map. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to hit save. And I'm going to save it the same name as what the MP3 is. The reason I do that is because I've pre-named all my sequences or my MP3s with the artist name, and then I change the name of it whenever I download it from Amazon. So that's the first thing I do. But you didn't know that, but now you do. So now I need another instance of xLights. If you're in Windows, all you have to do is open, go right-click over top of the icon for xLights down here. Just right-click over top of it, and it's opening on another screen. Forgive me. As soon as it opens, I'll slide it over, and then we'll while this is doing this, we're going to do this. We're going to send this to the desktop, right? Let's minimize, and we'll send this over here onto the desktop. Oh, look, Don't Stop the Santa Man. Imagine that. Okay, well, we'll delete these because it's almost like I did this before. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click and I'm going to extract all, and it's going to say, where do you want to extract it? I'm going to extract it right here. Click OK. And then it's going to open it up. It's going to put it somewhere else, but it's on my desktop. So you see how it says, oops, you see how it says original layout. It says desktop Rock Sugar. So it's right here on my desktop. I know where it's at. Okay. Now I have another version of xLights. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change permanently, or you can change temporarily. Change temporarily is good if you're working with one screen, but changing permanently doesn't matter. We'll go to the desktop and we'll go to Rock Sugar, Don't Stop the Santa Man. We know it's there, and we'll go into the original layout and click select folder. So now if you click on the layout, you should see And this is a really old version. That this is where the stars broke in back in the old days, the old snowflakes. So you have this. This is the layout that you're mapping from, and you're able to look on and see what all is here. So what you can do now is you can open up the sequence, and it will open up into the layout. And if you hit the render button now, it's going to map all of those shaders, videos, and picture effects to their proper location on my desktop. That's what it's doing right now. So that's step number one, is after you've downloaded, extracted the sequence, this is that's the steps you have to do to open it up on your computer. Now, this is actually the old way of mapping. I'm not trying to show you the old way. I'm just showing this like because of observation purposes. It makes it easier to understand where you're going from actually, pulling in the effects to be able to see them on one screen, and then be able to show them and apply them to the other map, or to your home layout, and then using your map, that is.
Hey, Clyde.
Yeah.
Question, or what you just did, there's another way to do it, and it's 10 times faster and easier. Go back to your Explorer folder, minimize that.
I'm rendering right now, so it's crunching.
Oh, go to your your file explorer, where that folder is. Open up that folder.
This one here.
Yep. All you have to do literally is go to that file where that XQ file is.
Oh yeah, you can double click on this, and
just double click on it, and it will open everything at once.
Old habits are hard to break. Excuse me. Thank you.
That'll just do what you just did in
one
step.
It's an executable file, is what it is.
Yeah.
For all of you people out in YouTube, this is an executable file. You don't have to change directories. xLights will just open this in the current directory that it's set to. It will recognize it, and it will open it right to this screen as you see right here. So good point. Thank you very much. I completely overlooked that, and I know that I've only been using. They did this back in 2020, I think, with the XSQs. 2021. So let's go ahead and roll along. We have our preview. This is what it looks like, and this is what it looks like on the demo house. And then we can go back and we can open up our home layout, and we can say, okay, well, I've got all of these cool props here. Let's go ahead and do the map, or let's do the mapping. And if we do new sequence, maybe I already did the new sequence on this. I'll do it again. Doesn't matter. Music, rock sugar, that one, 20 frames per second, quick start. So, I guess I actually had it saved, because I already had it saved. Discard changes. Now we'll go to the import screen. So we had it saved. I forgot because we got off track. So your next step is going to be to begin importing. So you have your layout here. You've done some due diligence. And your due diligence is necessary. You need to understand what is in the donor sequence and how things are kind of put together. And if you click on these and you don't know what they mean, slow down. Basically, what most people will do is they'll create a logical group. Like I said earlier, they'll take a group of props that's logical to put together, and they'll create a group. Make sure that you've done something similar ahead of time in yours. Call it about the same thing, so that whenever it comes to mapping, you'll know exactly what it should map to. Now, if we have a group that's called All Arches, and Combat George has a group that's called Arches Left or Arches Right, or something to that effect, you can create multiple groups with different names, and you can use the nomenclature that's available from the vendor for their specific sequences. So you can have multiple maps that make it easy for you to remember that, and you don't have to remember. You have them set up. Don't try to do it all at once. It'll blow your head up, but focus on one and just work at one at a time. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll begin the import process. We'll click the import button and then we'll navigate to the desktop. There we go. And we can go right into the folder, or we can go into the zip file. It doesn't matter. If you go into the zip file, which kind of makes a little bit of sense, because this is the new way to map, is using the zip file. But again, we took the time to open it up, so we have it over here to reference it. And you begin by doing something basic. You only have to map one thing at a time. So if I have an all display, it kind of matches my all display, right? If I go over here and look at, well, what's the all display thing do? I click on that and I say, oh, everything lit up. The tree's not lit up. Let's go over to my layout. What do I have a group that's like that? You'll know that ahead of time, or you can cancel out of here and go quickly make it. It's not really that complicated, but you can do this one item, put one item over there, and we can click save mapping, and we'll save it on the desktop. That works right here. We'll call it RS, Rock Sugar. And there's our map. So we have a map now. It only has one thing in it. If we click OK, you see that it brought in your timing marks, and then it also brought in your effects that were applied to the all display. So that's been mapped. Now you can render that and look at it and say, yeah, that looks pretty good, or no, I don't like that. I'm going to put something different there. So you can keep doing this one model literally at a time. We did this on the desktop from the zip file. We can say, what's next? We have the all house. Okay, well, what if we load the map? We put that on the desktop. Rock Sugar map. So there's the map, all display. What if we put the all roof, the all house on here too? Save the map, save over top of the map, or maybe you want to rename it because you want to try something different. You can call it something different if you want a second variation of your map from one vendor to another, if that makes sense. So now I just overwrote it, click OK. And now I can see, and there's not a lot there, the couple effects that was put on the all house. So now that's mapped. Okay, you can see that mapping it's not natively challenging. It's understanding, again, where it's coming from versus where it's going to go. So again, we can come back in here. We'll do a little bit more this time, we'll say. Desktop. We'll go into the zip file because you can pull it out of the zip file. And let's load the map so we don't have to look at those two. This one right there. There we go. So there's the two that are already mapped. We can add, let's see, the all yard. There's all house decorations. We have the all roof. I don't have a roof. I have a house outline. Let's do the all roof on the house outline. We have arches. So that all makes sense, right? So let's go ahead and save the map. Overwrite the existing map. Yes, you can do that. And we can click OK. You'll see it fill in a little bit more. So there's a little bit more in here, right? Now, I'm going to show you something that's a kind of a tiny bit out of the boundaries of what we were, scope of, not boundaries, but the scope of what we were doing today. What you can do is in your display elements, it's also important whenever you look at the donor sequence, how they set up the how they set up the layout of the order of models. And you can see here in this instance, the all display and the all house, the really big all groups are at the very top. And then down below are the individual logical groups that's logical to put them together. And those will override the sequencing down below of what's on the all house and all display. That, you know, this gives you, this is background basically at the top of the screen. This goes into the background, and what's at the bottom goes in the foreground. And then this is where that layer blending checkbox comes in, and it allows effects to blend between the all house and all display and the larger groups if in this instance. So with that being said, what I'm going to show you now is how, here we go, how to import, and this is huge thanks to Scott. We talked about this in another video. We can import this view right here, these views, this master view from the donated sequence. And we can do that really easily, import from layout file, or we can do it from the sequence itself. We can do import master view from file. So we have, let's go to desktop and rock sugar, and we can go right to the sequence. And now this is only going to work if your group names and your model names are the same as the group and the model names in the donor sequence as in your layout. So I was very specific whenever I did this. And this is why this is a bonus. So you may not have been expecting this. So here's this imported master. See how it says all house decorations, arches, mini trees, but I have all display. It's all because of the capitalization. I didn't spell it the same. So what it could have done was if I'd have spelled it capitalized ALL display, it would have put it over here and it would have organized it the same way. But this also is another lesson for everybody to learn, that sometimes whenever you map them and they map in, maybe this is a reason why it's not working. So, but in any event, this is how you can do the same thing here. You can come over here and look at sequencer. You can have the second screen up, and you can set these up right there. There's your all display, all house, all yard. You have all display, all house, all yard. There you go. And that's what the display elements does. Once you set that up and you make that your master, that's the last step, is make master after you've mapped everything over. But anyway, I digress. It's better to go back and do this in your master view first before you create that other view. You want to create that view last, after you're done mapping. But we can continue on with the mapping process. So let's go into desktop. Oh, I was already there. Well, we don't have to go into the zip folder. We can go right there. Let's load the map. And down that desktop, this one, there we go. Okay, so that just remapped everything. That brought the map back up. And then we can continue on kind of where we left off. Hey, we got some floodlights. What would look good with floodlights? I don't know. Let's say, I don't know, the icicles. Let's try that. And you can tell that these are groups because they're highlighted in blue. That's kind of helpful to know that. We have some mini trees here. We'll grab the mini trees and bring them over. One of the things that you can do is, here's your mega spinner. You can put this on snowflake 1, and we could put the snowflakes on snowflake 2, because we created 2 different groups of snowflakes. So maybe we'll get some different effects on them, right? You've got some spiral trees. I don't have any spiral trees, but I have mini trees. And we know that if from the lesson earlier, if we apply the mini trees to the mini trees, but we also can apply the mini trees, even though they're already selected, you can apply those yet again to something completely different. Just because it's grayed out doesn't mean that you can't put that or apply that to something else. So that's something helpful to learn. And we have, let's say, windows and doors. Put that down there. We have a yard border. I bet you the yard border would look good with, I don't know. Let's put the roof on it, all roof. There we go. So any other major groups that we want to map to? We're not going to use that snowflakes all. We're going to do something a little different. This is being a little creative, right? Okay, so let's save our mapping, and we're going to save it as that, and we'll replace it, and we'll click OK. And now you can see we have a lot of our effects here. And again, you do need to set up a master view. You do need to set up a master view. And let's just bring all these over. Snowflake 1, yeah, snowflake 1, snowflake 2, spiral trees, we'll bring them over. They're not nested, so it's not a big deal. And we'll bring these over. So the important ones to be at the top are the all display, the all house, and the all yard. Those in those orders. That's kind of it. Now, after you've created your view, you probably need to bring over your mini tree, or no, I'm sorry, mega tree. Star for the mega tree, because that was individually mapped. Maybe it wasn't mapped. And mega tree, CCR mega. I don't think we mapped those. Let's do that real quick. Go back to the master view, import effects, original layout, select, and we'll load the map and we'll see. And there's the mega tree. We didn't map that to the mega tree CC. Whoops, wrong one. Double click to get rid of it. Double click to add it, and the mega tree star would be here, star mega tree. So here we'll save our mapping again because we made a mistake. We missed it. And now we have that for any future mappings. Click OK. And what we'll do is we'll go to the imported master. We'll make it the master. And what that did was that put everything in the order of the way that we had it sequenced here in the donor sequence, because we took the time to put them in the same order. And if we hit render, it should render up, and there should be some pretty interesting effects that play on here. You all at home might not be able to hear because I don't think I'm sharing the sound. Let's see. Oh, it's not going to play very well too because I have overlapping channels. But in any event, you kind of get the idea how to get it to map. I'm gonna show you another little trick real quick while we're waiting for this. We can, when you know that you have some overlapping channels, and this is just for demo sakes, you can right click here and you can make all start channels not overlapping. It's not a magic bullet. It doesn't fix your wiring to your controllers and stuff like that. It just makes sure that there's nothing overlapping. Then the next thing you want to do is make all start channels, or make all start channels valid. Oh, maybe that fixed it. We'll see. Have to render again after I did that. But this should be, it should be pretty decent for, making it kind of work with not a perfect session of where you don't have everything set up. Like everything is not set up perfectly for mapping one perfectly to another. So let's go look at that tree. Delete this off of here. So you get the idea. It mapped in. It's doing mostly what it's supposed to do. You can take your time just getting things to work the way that you want them to work. The more that you map, again, you don't have to map absolutely everything all at one time. Basically it's I'm finally showing myself on YouTube. So if you're still out there on YouTube, hello there. If you're trying to get the best results are going to take you the time that you spend mapping to it. As a sequencer, I spend 50, 60, 70 hours on a sequence, and we make it so that it's easy to map it into yours if you have similar props. The challenge comes whenever you have some of the larger props that don't exactly match up. That's why we do multiple layouts, because if you have a basic layout, then the basic layout's going to work for a basic layout. But if you have a more high definition one, you have a bunch more options. And that's one of the reasons why I use this, because there are a little bit less things on this list that are going to show up where you can come back here and you can recall and you can say, oh, by the way, I still have this I can map. I still have this I can map. I haven't used these. And you can use that in some other things. So let me check out chat. I don't see anything. Oh, hi, Shen I see Shen from Hawaii. Hello there. Hello there. Let's see if there's anything in chat here in the PPD Zoom room. Let's see, Todd, I don't have a megatree, but do have a P5 matrix. So when importing an FSEQ, what's the best way to map those effects on the matrix instead? Okay, so that's a great question. First of all, let me kind of edit how you asked that question. An FSEQ isn't something that you map from. An FSEQ is what's used to run a sequence as an output through FPP, or it's used as an output for xSchedule to run your show. So when you're importing from the XSQ file. And whenever you do that, for example, the size of this matrix here, whenever I import from it, this is a P10, P5 type matrix. What the challenge is let me go in and show you the difference here. We kind of work hard to create these effects personally when we do a sequence to fit the screen that you're going to apply it to. And that's why we put a video file there, so that it works really well no matter what you're using it on. Now, the higher definition or the more pixelated model that you have, if you have a P5 versus a small tiny garage matrix, it's going to show up a little bit more blurry. And so what you can do is you can remove this, you can delete the video effect over top of the sequence, but if you and let the original effects take control of the sequence, and whenever you do that, those will scale up or fit more defined to your specific model's effects. The thing is that it really, what the challenge is that different effects are portrayed a different way. And what I mean by that is every effect does not one-for-one work exactly the same across all models. So for example, the shockwave, the explosion effect, doesn't scale exactly from a small matrix to a large matrix. If there's more pixels, it may not look as good. It may, you may, on the spiral effect, the certain degree of lean, for example, the spiral wraps -9 and +9, those are pretty canted. But if you put a -2 or a +2 on a megatree, it looks like it's perfect. And that's just because of the way that the tree is built or the way the matrix is built. So you may have to go in and physically edit some of these effects so that they work on your much larger matrix, because not everybody always has that. And it's hard for any individual sequencer to know what everybody has out there. So that's what we did to help with the solution, was to include the AVIs so that they would at least scale up and they would look decent on a larger matrix panel or even a smaller one. So that's a good question, Todd. Todd, if you're still out there, does that help? Does that make sense? YouTube, by the way, if you're in YouTube, go ahead and throw your questions in chat there. I do have you open there. And let's see, maybe I missed it, but and Dan says maybe I missed this, but can the audio file be changed on a sequence? Absolutely, it can. For example, let's say there's 2 versions of this song, and you purchased the wrong version, and then you ended up and realized it's the wrong version, so you purchased the right version. To do that, that's really simple. You click on the sequence settings. Once you go to the sequence settings, you can come here to this box here under the Info Media tab. click on this box here and you can navigate to your correct MP3 location, select it, click OK, and then click done. Once you do that though, you're going to have to re-render the sequence. So that's a good question. Mark G. Okay, this is great, but much to absorb. Absolutely. There's a lot of information in mapping, and it's really not cut and dry simple. You have to take your time when you're mapping. There's nothing fast about doing it until you get your layout set up. The other thing too, and a lot of people forget this, because we all have lives. Many of us spend 2, 3, 4 months planning for Christmas in October, November, December, and you order a bunch of stuff and you say, okay, I'm going to order this stuff and I'm going to do this next year and I'm going to add to my show this stuff. And then you don't touch your show again until September, October, November of the next year. So now you're 9 months out of practice, and so it becomes very frustrating.
I'll put the hosiery.
So with that being said, the challenge can be keeping up with what's going on in the software, and then every year having to learn or relearn things. And that's why we do these videos, so that you can go back and kind of review what we've done in the past or what you did in the past. And that's honestly, to be honest, that's the way I got started with doing videos on YouTube. Was I didn't want to forget. So for one season, I would do videos so that I could look back on the videos and say, that's how I did it, and I could just follow what I'd done. And then I realized that was a kind of a good lesson for other people. Everybody appreciated the fact that you could do that. So it's definitely something that I met John Storms back in 2015, and he said he did the same thing at work. He works for NVIDIA, and he does the exact same thing. He records his progress, and then when he finds a bug, he realizes, oh, I can if I record myself doing it, I can see what I was doing when it crashed or whatever, and I can go back and check it out and go fix it and reprogram it. So I was like, oh, good, I'm not the only person that records myself, finds the mistakes, and then kind of refines it and moves on. So let's see. Absolutely, Mark. He put in here. He says, I wanted I want it the simple way. The simplest way is to take your time with it. It is confusing. There's a lot to it, and it's not something that you can just sit down. Like we've been live here on YouTube now for an hour and 48 minutes. That's probably one of the longest webinars I've done, and I'm not even scratching the surface at answering pretty much every question that's available. So. And then Earl Bailey, thank you for posting that in the chat. The fastest way to import a sequence now is through the zip file method. We were having small issues last year that we couldn't nail down. We tried to work with the developers to find the bugs, why some things were continuing to map. We learned that sometimes if things were mapping incorrectly, we had to close xLights and restart it and create a new sequence, and that usually kind of fixed it. Can you discuss? So Adam says, can you discuss how to have a whole house effect to start in specific prop, like centering dot, but can't find it in 3D? I don't know that so I think what you're referring to, and by all means correct me if I'm wrong, if we click on any group or any model, any group, xLights will automatically create a crosshairs and put it directly in the center of what that group of props is considered the center of. With that being said, it does that automatically. So the center of like the all house decorations automatically goes there. If we go into 3D, I've never really looked at this. Is there any way to find
No,
it
you
here.
have to set it on 2D. So just like what you were doing, you set it on 2D and then it was 3D for the most part in xLights is just for you to watch your I mean, unless you're actually going into the 3D render styles and that, you're really just rendering like this. Although it looks pretty, it's still rendering like this. So this is where you want to center it in 2D. And then you can go in 3D and look to see how pretty it looks in that. But really, unless you're sequencing it yourself and you're going into those 3D renders, there's no real difference between 3D and 2D other than the way that it looks.
Right, and it really is simple to change these. I spent a lot of time trying to find the center of the house in some in the pro layout. I had to do that a lot. Like this is almost over to the right. I feel like the center of the house is right here, and so if I wanted to, I could just go over here and I can use my my arrow keys. I think you can use the arrow keys, well, or just click on the button and hold. I think that, and you can see as you change it, you can see it's sliding slightly over to the right there. That's your x-axis. And then if you're like, oh, it needs to be a little higher to be centered, you can click and hold, and then that'll center it for you. And what's nice about this is that you can do this on your home layout, so it fits whatever prop group that you need it to fit on. So in this instance, the all display, that looks like to me the center of the the whole thing. Yours, you might want it centered off of the peak of your roof, or the top peak of your roof. Maybe you have a peak up here, kind of like my home, and you want that to be the center. So you can physically move that wherever you need to, and it, obviously, like Rob said, you do it in 2D. So that's definitely a good question. So any other questions? YouTube, any questions? So how do you find the center again? Basically, you just select any model, select any model that's, or model group, excuse me. The crosshairs are attached to the model group. And then you just go in and you take them from that point. And like in this instance, that's the house decoration. I guess that's about right. Maybe the all yard looks good. Maybe I want a little lower or higher. You can always just select it and click and hold until and it will adjust it until you find that that's where you want it to be. So it's kind of easy. So tips on mapping 4 faces when you have 2. It's a pain to copy and paste the extras. Any trick to make it faster? Tips on mapping 4 faces. I mean, the fastest way to copy and paste from one model to another. Let me go over here and do this not on that sequence. Let me do it over here. So I don't have a lyric track for this, but if I wanted to copy something from one model, what you would do is you'd come over here to the model and you'd right click model and you'd copy. And then if you had another model here, I don't know of any that, so here we go. We can insert multiple layers below. And we can right click model, paste effects. And that would probably be the closest way to quickly copy and paste. That's, I mean, I don't know how much faster you need it to be than that. So, so YouTube, I think we're going to end it right about here. We're going on 2 hours, and I really didn't expect it to be this long tonight, but everybody's hung in there, and it seems to be a rather interesting topic for everybody that wants to learn more about mapping. I'm going to say thank you, YouTube. If you like the video, hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the red subscribe button. Remember, we love doing these videos for you guys. It's truly my pleasure doing them. If you appreciate what we do here at PPD, consider joining the PPD Sequence Club and getting one awesome new sequence each and every month. We're trying to spice things up a little bit. So some cool things coming. November's coming. Pick Your Own Sequence is coming. So there's all that. Guys, thank you from on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next video. And if you're in Zoom, stay tuned. We're not going to be live streamed for much longer. So guys, take care. Catch you later. All right. So we're not live on Facebook anymore.
We are live on Facebook. Do you want me to
Oh,
shut
we are?
Facebook up as well?
Okay. Hi, Facebook. Guys, have a good evening. If you want to jump in the Zoom room, go ahead. We're here. I don't know how I didn't even have Facebook open. So forgive me, Facebook.